Welcome to the Rialto Marketing Podcast. Today's episode is a revenue acceleration series interview where we talk to seven-figure B2B professional service firm owners and their growth-focused executives who are actively trying to grow their business and get to the next level. We talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly so that you can learn from their experience. Hi, I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing, where we believe marketing shouldn't be difficult. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I am super excited to have Kevin Flanagan from BCS 365 with me today. Kevin, welcome and thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to dig into this with you today. Before we jump into it, I want to ask you a few rapid fire questions if you're ready to jump in with both feet.
Sure.
Okay. So very quickly, what do you do? How long have you been doing it?
So Director of Sales and Marketing for BCS 365, really function as CRO. I've been with BCS for just over 6 years now.
Okay. What's the most important lesson you've learned along the way?
Adapt or die. Just because it worked yesterday doesn't mean it's going to work tomorrow.
That is so true. We can never get too comfortable, right?
No, you see it all the time in business. Graveyards cluttered with companies that couldn't adapt.
Yeah. So we know, look, marketing, sales, revenue operations, all of that stuff. It's not easy, right? It's hard work. Do you have any kind of mantra or motivational saying you say to yourself or share with your team to push through those challenging times?
Yeah, it might sound corny, right? But it's never as good as it seems, and it's never as bad as it seems. You're gonna have the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. You're never going to have everything work in your favor. So you just try to ride out the lows and wait for the next wave to come along.
Yeah, I love that, man. That actually is one of my favorite quotes, right? It's a nothing's as good or as bad as it seems. So, it's just a reminder to try and stay even keeled, right?
Yeah, exactly. I learned it a long time ago. Someone told me once on the golf course, and I thought to myself, wow, that really applies to a lot of things outside of golf.
All aspects of life, all aspects.
Exactly.
So, when we connected for the pre-interview, I know you had mentioned that you had worked with multiple outsourced, appointment setting services without a ton of success. What do you feel were the biggest challenges you faced in these partnerships, and what did you learn from the experience? Because, by the way, you are not the first person that I have talked to that has said the same thing. So,
Well, I'll take comfort in knowing that I'm not the first.
yeah,
There's hundreds of third-party services out there that claim to be the best, claim to have solved and have the secret recipe for meeting setting. Um, Unfortunately, what we found is they all want a flat rate, right? They all want their money paid to them up front, and in return, you get the promise
yeah,
of meetings. And in the end, every single one of them fell well short of their delivery metric, even though that metric was scaled, right? Hey, we're not promising anything in month one. We'll promise a handful in month two. But boy, by month three, we're going to be at that number and we're going to take off.
yeah.
Every time we got to month three and we took a step back, none of them were able to deliver. And it really left us wondering, if you're so sure of your capabilities and you're so rock solid with your process, then why wouldn't you entertain a win-win model? Whereas I'll give you dollar X for the meeting if it sits, and then I'll give you dollar X times 10 if that meeting turns into business. And to me, that's a more shared model, right? And by trying to get people to accept that model, I'm mitigating my risk, right? Because
Mhm.
I have all the risk in the promise of a meeting for upfront money.
Yeah. Yeah. It's there's downsides to both, right? The downside to paying per meeting is, how much incentive is there to make sure that that's really a qualified lead? So it really is, it's a tough thing, and it's especially in the IT and the managed service provider space. I talked to very few people that where it's worked well.
No,
I also
you're
think,
spot on. You are spot
yeah.
on. Where selling services is entirely different than selling hardware or software or a commodity.
Well, and the other thing too, I think that's challenging is a lot of direct outreach is really focused on finding that 10% or less of the market that is open to or looking to buy right now,
Mhm.
rather than taking a longer term approach and connecting with people and then building the relationship from there. And that's the challenge, right? Because if only 10% is looking or open to buy, you're trying to find that 10%, but then within that 10%, you need to find the people that are even willing to talk to you at that point. So it's it's very challenging.
Yeah, marketing understands that better than sales, right?
Yeah.
Sales is more instant gratification. I put a coin in and I get something in return. They don't like playing the long game, right? And
Yeah.
by the long game, it could be 8 months to a year, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, if the need isn't there right now, it doesn't mean that someday it will not be. But you have to nurture, you have to educate, and hope that when that day comes, you're still around and
Yeah.
ready to be considered.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's not the pain for your prospects needs to be incredibly high for them to switch, because switching managed service providers, depending on the size of the company, is not necessarily the easiest thing in the world to do.
No, yeah,
So
I agree. People in general are risk adverse, right?
yes.
You might look great, you might actually be better, but I just can't take the chance.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, which really hammers home that point of why it's so important to stay in front of those people, right? Because the more they see you, the more they start to get familiar, the more they get comfortable with you. And when the problem becomes great enough, the comfort level is high enough where they're open to that, right? And you know, you you hit on it. I mean, they got to be comfortable, they have to feel safe, and if they don't feel that way, they're not going to make the decision to change.
Correct.
So,
Yep.
um, now I know, Kevin, your sales team is responsible for sourcing their own leads and managing assigned leads. What strategies have worked best for your team in consistently generating and closing new business?
Yeah, I think first off, we've finally reached the point where we understand cold calling today just doesn't work, right? Post COVID, nobody's picking up the phone, or very few people are picking up the phone. And these days, our shift has been towards it's more about a warm call, right? A targeted call. It's the only sort of calling that works. And even then, by works, I mean probably has a 4 or 5% hit rate.
Yeah,
But cold calling has, less than a 0.5% hit rate. For us, the thing that really has been working is all things network related. So work your social network, work your business network, your personal network. Build a network of referral partners, people that you'll pay if they introduce you into a business. I'm not saying sell for me. I'm saying introduce me to people that you know that trust you. Build a business partner network.
yeah,
We've expanded into the UK in the last 5 months, and we found our fastest channel to success over there is go find MSPs and propose to be a partner with them and provide a service or a few services that they don't have today, right? It's we're happy with that, right? It's I will take a piece of a dollar rather than no dollars at all.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. So it sounds like, I mean, are they most of your salespeople taking more of an account-based marketing approach? And then they're directly reaching out to potential referral partners.
Right, right.
Is that
And
accurate?
yeah, and we've had a referral partner program for a number of years. And, as I said, we're not asking them to even attend the meeting. We're just, hey, make a warm introduction, and then get out of the way. And if it turns into business, I'll pay you, $2, $3,000,
Yeah.
because you did that. And
Yeah.
we have referral partners that are, referring 4 or 5 deals a quarter and getting paid for doing it. And these aren't necessarily partners in our ecosystem. One of the ones that we have that's been very successful, he's a quality improvement consultant, whereas he'd go into a manufacturing facility and take the production from 500 steps to 50 steps using Lean Six Sigma and
Yeah.
processes like that. Now, what does he have that I want, Tim? He has a Rolodex, right?
Yeah.
He has a Rolodex of people that he's worked with that have trusted him, and if he says, "Hey, you should take a meeting with Kevin from BCS," they're more likely to do that,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that's a path of a whole lot less resistance than just cold calling.
The other thing with that particular example too is what he does is complementary to what you do.
Mhm.
And so it's much easier for him to have that initial IT conversation, right? Because what you guys are doing on the IT side is supporting what he's trying to get done as well. And so there's it ties in really nicely. The thing that I'm curious about, Kevin, is did you guys notice a difference when you started incentivizing for referrals through referral partners, or does it work better with some than it does others? What have you observed there?
Before we started paying them for the lead, the referral partner network was this verbal agreement that said, we'll we'll interchange leads. You give me a lead, I'll give you a lead, and this will be a nice little relationship. But, someone's always 5 minutes after I leave, you're going to be back to work. You're going to forget about that. It's not as meaningful to your business. It's not in writing. There's no instant gratification there.
Yeah.
Um, Money is unfortunately, we live in a world where, money is an instant gratifier.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is work better than the early kind of just, hey, we're in a business network. We'll meet once a week and we'll just exchange. Oh, hey, I know a guy. Oh, I
Yeah.
know a guy. There's networks that are set up to do that, but more on the small business side. Every town has a network like that. It's made up of landscapers and electricians and plumbers. And I'm not saying it's bad. It works for them, right?
Yeah.
But typically, that's I'm referring a homeowner to you. You're referring a homeowner back to me. As you move upstream into larger companies, that just doesn't seem to work as easily.
Yeah. Do you have a formal agreement that your referral partners sign?
Yeah, we do, and it's. I like to think it's non-threatening. It's one of the shorter agreements I have. I think it's a one-page document. It's non-binding. Either party can cancel it at any time with zero notice. But it just calls out, hey, here's how you go about referring something over to me, and if it closes, I owe you a check. Here's how the check is calculated, and here's when it's due.
Yeah.
So it's very straightforward. We find that the clunkier those agreements get and the lengthier they get,
Yeah.
it intimidates people, right?
Yeah.
If it looks like a legal document, people shy away from it.
Yeah. Do you pay a percentage of top line revenue? What's that look like?
So, in an effort to simplify it, in the past, up until this year, we used to tell them, okay, we'll pay you X percentage of, the first month's margin. Well, what is that? Right?
Yeah.
They want something they can quantify. So
Yeah.
basically we said, you know what? Let's keep this simple. Right? If it's this size, you'll get $1,000. If it's mid size, you'll get $2,000. If it's above that, we'll get $3,000. And we'll give you the opportunity to negotiate on a huge opportunity. Right?
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So you basically have windows, right? If the project is between this and this amount, then
Correct.
we're going to pay you $1,000.
Correct. Yep.
Got it. Okay. I love it. So you touched on this a little bit. You've tried cold outreach, email campaigns. You got referral partnerships. What lead gen tactics have proven most effective for you guys, and how have you adjusted your approach over time?
Yeah, I think the key word there is tactics plural. We have a
Yeah,
lot of folks on the team that will get settled into one tactic, um, and focus so hard on that they neglect all the others. And I'm always reminding the team, it's like a racing boat, a crew, right? Hey, there's 12 oars, and you have to be pulling on all 12 oars simultaneously, or else you're never going to get anywhere, right?
yeah,
If you're just sitting there and you're solely focused on your referral partners and you're not working any other avenues, don't be disappointed with the results, right?
yeah,
And as I said earlier, you know, maybe, you're throwing in some direct email campaigns and maybe some warm calling, but from time to time, you're going to hit that valley where those aren't working. You don't give up on it,
yeah,
right? That's why you need multiple oars, right? So if I'm pulling on 12 oars and three of them happen to be clicking this month, maybe two or three others might pay off, 2 or 3 months down the road.
yeah,
So, it's hard with the sales team because, like I said, they have a short attention span. And if something's not working, they'll turn their back on it and they'll go focus someplace else. And then, same thing if, wow, I got two deals out of referral partners. I'm going to devote all my time to referral partners. Okay, well, don't be disappointed when that well runs dry.
yeah. How do you stay on top of that with them to make sure that that's top of mind?
Yeah, shameless plug, right? So we're using HubSpot. We had been using Salesforce for the last 3 years. We're just not a big enough company to use Salesforce, and Salesforce is their CRM is great, not so great on the marketing module, right?
Yeah,
So we retreated back to HubSpot. We've added in a couple of analytical tools like lead forensics and a couple of others. And what we're getting now is huge volumes of analytical data that show us results on every single thing that we're doing across the board. So, and the other part about the salespeople is the easiest way to get them to try different things is, have one of their counterparts tell a story about success
hmm,
using, you know, a social network or a business network or a personal network, right? They're very, not a bad word, but they are lemmings, right? If they perceive that somebody else is successful doing X, they're going to go do X.
yeah, yeah. How many salespeople do you have on the team?
So when we're fully staffed, we have about a dozen.
Okay,
Currently, I think we've got seven. So we've
okay,
got a couple of job openings if anyone's interested.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's a decent sized sales team nonetheless. So, yeah, it's
Yeah,
interesting.
they're very, they're geographically scattered. And I think that's the other challenge, right, Tim, is just because something's working in the Northeast, don't assume that that same approach is going to work in the Southeast, right?
Yeah,
You need to understand the demographics and the way they do business.
yeah, yeah. And it's funny. You There's a couple things I want to pull out here. One is when you were talking about, hey, we need to focus on multiple tactics, right? Like I talk about that all the time on the marketing side, where it's like if all your business is coming through referrals, you're riding a unicycle. If the tire goes flat, you're screwed.
Yep.
Um, you know, I like your boat analogy. I always just go back to vehicles and things like that, where it's like if you got multiple channels, well, you're riding a four wheeler, right? If one of those tires goes flat, you're still going to get there
Hmm.
to the destination. It may take you a little bit longer, but you're going to get there. If it's a unicycle, you ain't gonna get there, um, which is so important. And the other thing too that I love that you talked about is how important it is sharing within the team those successes, right? Because oftentimes like we're not sure whether it's possible until we see somebody do it, right? The analogy that's coming to my head right now is the one about the 4 minute mile, right? Like nobody thought that it was possible. And then what was it? Like once the first guy did it, the second guy did it like within a month or something like that. I mean,
Yep.
it's crazy. I can't remember
Yeah.
the exact numbers, but
Yeah. No. And now you've got, first year college students, pushing a 4-minute mile.
yeah,
So yeah, you're right. It's, people don't believe things can be done until they see it done, right? It's very
yeah,
much a, hey, show me, prove to me, right?
yeah, yeah, such a big deal. Um, Now I know, Kevin, you guys have increased your investment in content marketing and social media. But B2B sales cycles can be long, as we know. Uh, how does your marketing strategy support what the sales team's doing, helping them staying engaged with prospects over that life cycle?
Yeah. So we probably right now have a database of somewhere between 90 and 100,000 contacts that we are marketing to directly on a, uh, I would say, weekly basis.
Okay.
um Kind of the approach is until they opt out or threaten to call the cops, we're going to keep on marketing to them.
Yeah.
But we've segmented them into SMB and mid enterprise because you know what we're doing is highly technical, like we talked about early on. It's
Yeah.
services. You can't necessarily touch it and understand it. On the SMB side, quite often we're not selling to a technical audience, right? So
Yeah.
those campaigns, that outreach is business focused. Where if I'm talking to a company with 3,000 employees, okay, they have an IT staff, they have technical people, that can be more technical outreach in nature, right? But we try to avoid, overcomplicating it on the SMB side. Now, those are smaller opportunities, but we find that they move much quicker through the funnel,
Yeah.
where an SMB opportunity average sales cycle might be 6 to 8 weeks. Mid enterprise, it could be 6 to 8 months or longer.
Yeah.
So, we need to be very clear on who's the audience that we're speaking to.
And with mid market, are you guys doing offering like co-managed services? Is it project work that you're doing? What does that look like?
Yeah, here's one of our challenges, right? Is we do all things IT. And when I put my hands here, I'd put them wider, but they'd be off the screen.
Yeah.
All things IT, that's a broad spectrum, right? um so how do you focus that, right? I don't know where the need is, so I need to be talking across a very broad spectrum, and then hope, as you said earlier, that I hit a chord and there is a somewhat immediate need in one of those many 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 segments. And let's say there's 20 different offers across all aspects of IT. And that's the challenge. Our first, sometimes second calls are very much a discovery call. Look, I don't know enough about you, Mr. Client, to be so bold to get on my first call, beat my chest, and tell you how great I am and how I can help you. I don't
Yeah.
know if I can help you. I think I might, right? Based on, 40 years in the industry, I think I can find an area of need. but I'm not going to jump on that first call and, you know, do a lot of talking. I'm going to do a lot of asking of questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Ask them questions and listen to what they have to say.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. For sure.
Kevin, you highlighted something that I think is really important and easy for people to overlook where, you've got this list of contacts, but you've segmented based on different characteristics, but the message to each of those segments is different. And that's really, really important, right? Because if we don't segment, we the message just becomes too broad, and when it's too broad, it just becomes irrelevant. Whereas because you've segmented, you can make that much more specific, not talk tech with that segment that's not technical, but the segment that is, you can get a lot more direct and pointed talking about the tech. And that's really, really important. And I think long term, that's going to make what you're doing much more effective. And it's just something that we can't forget. And look, you've segmented into two simple audiences. This doesn't have to be a super complex thing. We just need to start doing it. Um, and
Yeah, it takes a
see
little
what
longer and
happens.
it seems like a duplication of effort, right? Like, well, why do I have to take a technical message and make it non-technical? Um, but I'm not saying the non-technical message wouldn't work in mid-enterprise, but you'll have to be targeting a CFO or a CEO with
Yeah.
that message, right?
Right.
Because CFO, what do they care about, right? It's dollars. Does this make me money or does this save me money?
Yeah.
And that seems really, really vanilla, but that's the nature of their job,
Yeah.
right? So, or you might get them if you have a risk conversation because risk represents dollars as well.
Yeah.
But you need to tie it back to dollars at the end of the day. So, yeah, it's it's funny, right? A lot of it is persona based, right?
Yeah.
When we had an inside sales team, they were making 1,000 calls a day. This was before COVID, and the burnout rate in that job is so high.
Yeah.
And I told them, pick a day and pick a persona, and all day long focus on that persona, because if they answer the phone, it's too late to mentally make that shift, right? Oh, who was I calling? What's that title? Oh, I got to give them the CFO pitch. Oh, Jesus, CIO. So it was easier for them to stay in character, stay focused. And Mondays, it's CFOs, right?
Yeah.
And I have top of mind all the things that I want to say that are important that will resonate with that persona.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of my mentors said specificity sells, and that always stuck with me. And it's much, much easier when you segment it like that, where they're like, okay, these are the specific people I'm talking to. Here's the pain points. Here's the outcomes they want, right? Here's what's important to them. The more specific we can get there, the higher likelihood it's going to resonate and you're going to capture, their interest and attention. And without that segmentation, we don't have the ability to do that. You just can't.
Yeah, we're just too scattered,
Yeah.
and you come off scattered.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. So what given the challenges of selling, IT and cyber, how do you see the role of sales and marketing evolving in the industry? What changes are you preparing for?
Yeah, I think longer sales cycles, because a big part of what we do up front is educating, right? It's, a lot, especially cybersecurity, right? Cybersecurity is newly top of mind, right? Only in the last 5 or 6 years has it become so top of mind, because we hear about it every day, not just in, 8 to 5 in the business. You hear about it at home on the news. You experience it with the text messages and the email that you're getting into your personal devices and your personal emails. So everybody now is hyper aware, but that industry's changing so fast. We joke sometimes, it's a game of whack-a-mole, right? Every time we think we've solved and beaten down a crisis here, a new crisis pops up someplace
Yeah.
else.
Yep.
So, we spend a ton of time educating, doing webinars that people would go, "Are you in sales?" Because none of the 30 minutes was spent selling.
Yeah.
No, no, I can't. Like marketing, it's a journey, and we need to first educate them. And yeah, sure, we're creating some FUD in the process, right? But we need them to fully understand how critical cybersecurity is to the business and what happens without it, right? So stories resonate there, right? So, we've been doing a lot of breakout sessions at events and over the last 2 years, 30 minutes, and it's just cybersecurity awareness. The last slide, I'll give you my name, I'll give you my contact information. I'll stand in the back of the room after this and we can talk, but I'm not here to sell you. I'm here to educate you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So, knowing what you know now, anything you would do differently?
Um, we probably would have built out the business partner channel sooner, not the referral partner channel, but the business partner channel, right? Like, hey, let's team up. I have strengths, you have strengths, we both have weaknesses. Let's figure out how we can augment each other's offerings and pair up. There's a saying I love. I recently used it in the UK, and they all looked at me like, what are you talking about? But the saying is that pigs get fed and hogs get slaughtered, right? And the idea is don't be a greedy pig,
Yeah.
right? I'll take a piece of the pie. I don't need the whole pie, right? Hey, a new logo is a new logo, right? And
Yeah.
what we know is if we can get into a business with a partner doing just something in particular, or any new business, eh, I can go deeper and wider over time, but I have to first prove my value, right?
Mhm.
I have to prove my value to the partner. I have to prove my value to the client. And I think in the past, we've fallen into the trap. There's again, another saying, land and expand. Well, yeah, we all bought into that, but we thought it meant all at once, right? And it's like, guys, no, 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 no. It's land with helping provide value in a certain segment and then expand over time,
Yeah.
because right, people buy from, again, analogy, people buy from people that they like. Yeah, they do, but they also have to trust you.
Mhm.
So it's they'll buy from people that they like and trust, and trust is earned. You need to build it up over time.
Yeah.
So, let's not try to boil the ocean all at once. Let's be happy with one piece that we can do really, really well, provide value there, and then earn the trust to expand from that.
Yeah. I love it, man. So, Kevin, thank you for taking the time. Where can people learn more about you if they want to connect?
Yeah, so I'm active, very active on LinkedIn. BCS is even more active than that. And again, it's a great place. If you follow us on LinkedIn, you're gonna get a free education on a number of things. And then they could always email me directly, kflanagan at bcs365.com.
Okay.
So yeah, happy to have like I said at the top of the call, no bad conversations. Happy to talk to anybody.
Cool. We will make sure that both those links are in the show notes, but it's bcs365.com.
Yep.
And then, unfortunately, there's other Kevin Flanagans. So, your 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 LinkedIn URL is not quite as easy, but we'll make sure that that gets in the show notes so you guys can connect with Kevin directly. I really appreciate you taking the time. This has been a great conversation, and appreciate you sharing, your experience and what you've learned along the way.
Yeah,
Those
I've
of
enjoyed
you,
it.
yeah, awesome. Those of you that are watching, listening, appreciate you as well. You can connect with us over at rialtomarketing.com. That's RIALTO marketing.com. The other tool we've got for you is over at revenue-roadblockscorecard.com. When we help clients build their marketing engine, we focus on 9 key areas. If you want to know which of the 9 are slowing down your growth, that's where you can do it super fast, less than 5 minutes, customized reports. So go check it out, revenue-roadblockscorecard.com. Thanks so much. Till next time, take care.